Whatever you have forgotten, you can remember. Whatever you have buried, you can unearth. If you are willing to look deep into your own nature, if you're willing to peel away the layers of not-self you have adopted making your way through the tribulations of life, you will find that your true self is not as far removed as you think. And that quote comes from Meredith Jordan. Welcome to Surviving the Matrix, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maxwell Egan. It's a pleasure to be with you once again, and I will be your host for the next hour. What do we each do with the time that is allotted to us? How much of our lives do we actually experience? How much of the time that we have do we actually do something with? One of the most interesting things we see when we look at the world today, or we look at society today, is to notice how everybody within society is kept in a constant state of distraction. Almost everything that we do is about distraction or entertainment, and really, what is entertainment but distraction? Because a lot of what we do to entertain ourselves is very often not pursuits of knowledge or pursuits of community or working to improve reality. I mean, sometimes it can be, but very often what we do for entertainment is we watch movies, we go to nightclubs, we drink alcohol, we sit in front of the television, we read fantasy novels that are just circle books that bring you back to where you started when you finished the book. And we do a lot of these things to substitute the experience of the person within the book for the experience of our own lives. And that's really the nature of entertainment, isn't it? I mean, you don't do something knowledgeable or in the pursuit of good in order to entertain yourself. Entertainment is what you find a mouse doing when it is on a treadmill in a cage and it is running around on the treadmill to satisfy its need to run around, as mice do. They like to get lots of exercise. They're always darting and running around the place. And so you give them a treadmill to keep them entertained while you keep them in a cage. And because we are a lot more intelligent than mice, well, of course there may be some who might argue about that given the current state of the world, but because we are supposedly more intelligent than mice, then they need to give us more creative ways in order to entertain ourselves. And that's why we have an entertainment industry. And really, when you look at it, folks, you'll find that the entertainment industry is one of the biggest industries in the world. I mean, look at the scope of entertainment that we have. We've got football, we've got all forms of sport, we've got televisions, movies, go-kart tracks, mini-golf, iPods, Xboxes, video games, a plethora of pop stars and musical genres to choose from. Theme parks where they put all forms of entertainment together and charge you money to go in there and basically do nothing and eat terrible food all day. Anything that can be provided for you that they believe will work, that can be used to distract you from who you are and to prevent you from ever being in such a terrible position that you may actually have to live your own life and experience reality for what it actually is. All this entertainment ever does is distract you from yourself. And the thing is, folks, that ultimately it's yourself that you're here to experience, not all the other stuff. And even more than that, it is yourself that you are here to discover. Most people never have time to discover themselves because they're too busy out there discovering all of this other stuff, which is not themselves. And the trick is that you need to discover yourself in order to even begin to have any hope of experiencing yourself. And that's what all this entertainment does. It prevents you from ever achieving those two simple goals in life, which are the actual goals of life. But it keeps people distracted from these objectives and keeps them in a place where they are never really noticing their surroundings. And I refer again to the analogy of the mouse on the treadmill. And that is the nature and purpose of the modern entertainment industry. It distracts you away from the true experience of yourself. And we do this when we watch movies. We go through the emotional ride with the person in the movie, and we become the person in the movie, and we immerse ourselves in that reality in order to escape our own. And so perhaps the real question that people should be asking themselves here is, why is there a need or even a desire to escape their own reality? And the thing is, you can never truly escape your own reality, folks. Wherever you go, there you are. You're always there. Even if you distract yourself from yourself through outside means for a little while, eventually there comes a time when you have to return to yourself. And it's very sad when people get to much older in life before they've turned to look at themselves, because it can be very difficult to find yourself buried beneath all of the stuff that you've collected along the way if you leave it till you're very old. Because we tend to accumulate a lot of baggage, a lot of emotional baggage, a lot of concepts about who and what we are, depending on how we've measured up to the yardsticks that society has provided for us, of course. And so it can be very difficult for some people to really look within and really begin to discover the meaning of themselves and the meaning of their lives and what they've done with the time that's been allotted to them. In fact, if you really look at it, folks, what you could say is that one of the things our society does is it serves to remove us from ourselves. And once it's done that, it removes us of other things that make us who we are. Like, it removes us of any real self-responsibility. Well, we are responsible for our actions, but we're not responsible for our place in the world. We have other people look after that for us in the form of political parties, whether it's Liberal, Labor, Republican, Democrat, Green Party, Conservatives, whatever. But we elect one of them into a position of so-called power, and we let them run our lives, and we let them run our society. And we don't really take responsibility for the world ourselves, because we're taught that taking responsibility for the world means you have to vote for one of these particular faces that they put on the theatre of the absurd that we call modern politics. And we believe that because we voted for one of these faces, then we have made a difference. We are helping the world go in a different direction. But what we fail to see, folks, is that all of these political parties are all financed by the same people. They all have ultimately the same objective. They just put a different face on it to give the people the illusion that they have a choice and the illusion that they're making a difference by voting for one particular side of the coin. When really nothing could be further from the truth, folks, because voting is simply theatre. It's theatre for the masses, to give the masses the illusion of choice. That's all it's for. Because really what we are living in is a functional rotational dictatorship. I've said that before. It's essentially a corporate system that we're living in, and all we do is elect a new CEO who has a slightly different plan for running the company than the guy before him, but ultimately he's running the company towards the same directive and the same agenda that the other guy was, because they all have the same agenda, and this is regardless of which government you're talking about, folks. They all have the same agenda, and that is one of globalization. And look, globalization wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing if it was done in the correct way. I mean, Lord knows we could certainly use a little bit more common unity and a little bit more equality in the world. And that's why the concept of globalization is actually quite appealing to a lot of people. And as I said, globalization would not be a bad thing if it was done in the correct way. But what we do not want is globalization as it is being presented to us in its current form by the powers that be, simply because what we are being presented with as globalization is in fact corporatism. It's all based on a system of commerce, and I've done shows where I've talked about how the human experience has been reduced to commerce, and this is what's basically wrong with the world. So when you understand that this is how it works, and what we're actually living within is a corporate system that has been designed in such a way that humanity is the most expendable thing within its parameters, then you see the dangers of globalization in its present form, because what commerce-based globalization will do will be to discard most of humanity in its natural process of consolidation. It simply can't do anything else but make itself more efficient, and this is, of course, done at the expense of mankind in order to support the economic model. So that's what's wrong with globalization in its present form. Many people can't see this. They don't see how it works because they're not aware that they have had their life reduced to commerce. They think it's quite natural for them to be performing commerce all the time. But commerce is commercial activity. You're basically a commodity, you're a product, and you're always involved in commercial activity if you're operating within the parameters of this system. And that's your life. That's what you've been reduced to. So when you look at it this way, you can see why globalization, commerce-based globalization, would be so detrimental to mankind. It may be a very efficient system and may have very, very sharp, squeaky clean economic parameters, but it will be good only for the system and not for the people that the system was supposedly designed to serve. So you really need to step back and look at this, folks, and see what globalization actually is. And as I said, we do need some more equality, we do need some more unity, we do need a little bit more compassion in the world, and this is the reason why globalization looks so attractive to the masses, to the mainstream people living in suburbia, because they can only view the world from a perspective of commerce, even though they don't even realize that that's the way they're viewing it. And of course you can't blame them, folks, because they're only viewing the world this way because it's the way they've been trained to view the world, because that is the belief that our scholastic and social systems are designed to instill within the minds of the people. And you see, this commercially based reality also itself functions as an enormous distraction for the people that operate within its parameters, because people are kept so busy on the treadmill that they've never got time to find themselves. And really, that's what it's all about. It's about keeping people from the discovery of themselves. That is the most important thing that this system can accomplish. And it's by doing this to people that this globalization process has been able to unfold the way it has and continue along, always moving in a very fixed direction. And look, a lot of people know that it's there now. A lot of people know how the world is run. They know there is a shadowy hand, but they don't really know what the shadowy hand is. And really what it is the system itself. What the shadowy hand is corporatism, the underlying corporatism of the entire planet. But people are constantly given little rabbit holes to go down, the Illuminati, different families to research, the banking system, all of these things which are all simply parts of the mechanism, parts of the construct. And they go off fighting one of these symptoms, believing that they're actually attacking the system, but they're not. They're simply fighting one arm of it, one strand of the web, because it is like a web. And the web is the corporate system itself in all of its aspects. And it's because it's all commercially based. It's all based in commerce. Everything that happens within this system, everything that happens in your life, everything that you have, everything you're able to do, it's all based on whether it's commercially possible for you to do, because it all requires a transaction. Everything that you do requires commerce. And that's the basis of the whole thing. That's the glue that binds it together. And so that's why that system needs to be addressed. It's the whole commercially based reality, the whole way reality is structured to always support the economic model. That's the problem. And so it's no good really addressing all of these different strands of the web. What you have to do is look at the glue that holds it together and realize that all you really have to do to get out of this commercial world is start treating each other with respect and start treating each other as you would be treated yourself. See, that's the key to the whole thing, and that's one of the most important things that this system has taken away from us. But ultimately, all of these systems are designed simply to distract people. The whole commercial system is designed to not only enslave you, but to distract you so that the noose can be further and further tightened very, very slowly until eventually humankind is reduced to the state of a robot, virtually, and that's what is going on. And all of the distractions are provided to prevent people from noticing that this is what's going on. This is why all the rabbit holes are provided for people to go down as well. Go and look down all these rabbit holes and conspiracy theories and this and that, and look at different aspects of the mechanism and always work to fight one of these different strands of the web, one of these symptoms of the problem. The problem ultimately being the disempowerment of mankind and the fact that mankind has no real idea collectively of who and what we are and what we are capable of being. And we have been trained to hand over our power to someone else, hand over our power to servants that we elect to do the opposite of what they're doing. people who are essentially public trustees and who are all operating in breach of trust.